table for these two teams. Now here is where they stand in the SEC, both in the middle of the pack with 5 conference wins. So far, it's a 4-big conference with Florida, Missouri, Kentucky, and Texas A&M dialed in. You see the Titan Tigers sitting at 111 and 68 respectively in the latest RPI. And with that, we welcome you inside Foster Auditorium. I'm Melissa Lee. She is former Mississippi State head coach Jenny Hazelwood. And obviously, this is always a big rivalry showdown between the two teams. But both head coaches feel that if they can run the table in November, Jenny, they should be in consideration for the postseason. Do you agree?
Well, Auburn's going to have to get their RPI a lot higher than it is right now, probably at least in the 50s, if not higher, to get in the conversation. So they have to win out, and then we'll see where their RPI stands. Alabama has a better RPI as of right now, but they still need some significant wins, and they have opportunities down the stretch.
Well, you mentioned Auburn. They've got that big mountain to climb. If they're going to get to the postseason, they're going to get there, courtesy of their freshman right side hitter, Gwen Jones.
Gwen Jones has been very steady for the Tigers all season long. She's second on the team in kills behind Brenna McElroy and continues to be a go-to player for the Auburn offense. And Crystal Rivers, she is a focal point of this Alabama offense. A great season, even when teams know she's going to get the ball. So look for her to continue her offensive output tonight and give the Tide a chance to win.
Alabama won the coin toss here tonight, but the Auburn Tigers will serve first. Auburn 14-12 on the year, 8-5 as you saw in the SEC. Alabama 16-10, 5-8 in the conference, and we are underway here in Tuscaloosa. Brittany Thomas tried to put a hammer down on the kill there. Nothing doing on the other side defensively for the Tigers. Swinging out Crystal Rivers with a big hammer on that right pin, and right out of the gate, the redshirt senior brings home the first point for the Tide.
And both teams going to their go-to players early and right away in that rally, and it's Crystal Rivers coming up with a big kill. She hit that ball really hard.
She's going to do that a lot. That is just a piece of the athleticism that has been the Crystal Rivers show here for Alabama this season. And Brittany Thomas serves it out. Service error for Alabama, knocks us up at 1 apiece here inside Foster Auditorium. Back to serve now for the Tigers. That is Jessie Earl, the libero junior from Indianapolis, Indiana. 38 service aces on the year. She's pretty good back there too. And Alabama gets her off the service line. That's a big get for the Tide.
And Crystal Rivers choosing to go off speed that time, and it was played by Barksdale, the blocker, but they just couldn't quite handle the play after that.
There's a look at Ed Allen in his 6th season with the Tide. He's taken the team to the NCAA postseason twice in his time at the Capstone, and as we mentioned, may have that outside chance to do it again with the 5 matches remaining on his schedule. As you see the Auburn block tooled by Crystal Rivers, point Alabama. A lot of injuries for this Crimson Tide team. One of their star outside hitters, Kat Hudson, out with concussion protocol, has missed the entire SEC slate this year. They also lost their setter, and Shannon McKeskey, who started at the beginning of the season a week ago in the Ole Miss match. Since that time, Alabama lost 4 straight matches, came out with a victory, though, Sunday against Arkansas.
And when you've got a new setter playing, it takes some time to adjust, to get used to how she runs things, and Alabama seems to be getting more comfortable.
And it's Alexa Tomlak who is setting for the Crimson Tide. She is just a freshman. See her get the touch there, and she takes it over on 2. Very good decision for the freshman. That is a look at what Alabama has compiled this year. 68th in the NCAA RPI. Talk about quality opponents remaining on their schedule. The only one they've really got remaining is the Florida Gators, and that is coming up later this week. So it will be difficult for the team to get to the postseason, and both coaches know it's an uphill climb.
And you know that Alabama has the RPI that's a little bit higher right now, but if they win out, their win percentage will increase their RPI, obviously. And, you know, that's what they're going to have a chance.
Crystal Rivers serves it out. Service error. Point goes to Auburn. Back to serve for Auburn is Brenna McElroy. Talk about injuries for Alabama. How about some injuries for Auburn? They've had quite a few as well. McElroy happens to be their best outside hitter. She had to sit out with a knee injury midseason.
And Auburn just doing a nice job now of, they're 6-2 in the month of October because they've battled through those injuries. Players have had to step up, and now they've been able to settle into a little more consistent lineup.
And like Klitsky, their great middle out. Stephanie Campbell also out with an injury, and that point will go to the Auburn Tigers as we have gone back and forth here inside Foster Auditorium. There's a look at Rick Nold in his 6th season as well. As you mentioned, his team got hot there in October, finishing 6-2 for the month. They did have some significant injuries to start the season, and gelling and coming together. And speaking of coming together, this Alabama offense very balanced the last 2 matches. That was a kill, and a good look at the freshman Haley McSparent in the middle.
And Alexa Tomlak just seems to be getting more and more comfortable with each match. She's been running the middles very well for Alabama. And when you've got a player like Crystal Rivers that can get big kills, and she's running the offense like we've seen her in these last few matches, that's what Alabama needs to happen to have that strong finish.
And Alexa Philly was able to get that kill. That's a kid that has had 3 triple-doubles this season. That is fantastic. Speaking of triple-doubles, Crystal Rivers had one Sunday versus Arkansas. Brittany Thomas tried to tool the block, but that's a pretty big block on that right pin for the Auburn Tigers.
And right away, you saw Alexa Tomlak say to her hitters, "That's me." I think she thought she didn't maybe make the best decision for the offense. And you like seeing the freshmen kind of stepping up and taking ownership like that.
And on the slide play, that was Leah Lawrence. We saw Auburn's season thus far from a record standpoint. Auburn on the other side, 14-12. Got off to a great start. Picked up a nice top 25 win over Louisville to start the season. But then those injuries crept up, and then they had to kind of retool their rotation, didn't they, Jenny?
They absolutely did, and you just see players stepping up in the absence of some of those injured players that we talked about early on. And now that they've gotten some of the injured players back, Brenna McElroy's back on the floor, it's really seemed to flow a lot better, and just a big credit to these players and the coaching staff.
It's Tomlak with the service. She was going straight after Brenna McElroy in the back row. When Jones not able to terminate, free ball incoming. Soft tip over the block by Courtney Crable. Crystal Rivers brings the hammer.
And Crystal Rivers just seems so much more comfortable now with the new setter. That time the out-of-system ball coming from the libero, and she's just taking a much more full swing than I have seen her since right after the injury to Shannon McKeskey.
Big swing by Macy Reese. Crystal Rivers, she is dug up by McElroy. Here comes Brittany Thomas, and Brittany Thomas with the attack error. That's got to go long.
And Brittany Thomas has had a nice few recent matches. She played very well against Texas A&M and then against Arkansas on Sunday. So she was a big part of that win on Sunday, taking a lot of big rips and really helping spread the offense.
And she had 12 kills, 9 digs versus Arkansas. Had a good match when Crystal Rivers maybe wasn't having the best match offensively, though tonight she is looking very, very good.
And Crystal Rivers just takes another big swing, this time from the left side, and puts the ball down in front of the off blocker. It's just one of the things that makes her special is how high she attacks the ball and could put it at such a downward angle.
Short serve by Brittany Thomas. Back set, Gwen Jones on the slide, yes.
And this match just features 2 of the top right sides in the SEC. Gwen Jones is, again, someone that they can set in system, out of system, and she handles the ball so nicely.
Good dig there by Brittany Thomas. That's Bondi on a payday, not able to deliver there. Back set, Jones through the block. Good up by Natalie Murison. Thomas out of the back row, and it just got a hit off her wrist. The roll shot over the net gets it to go.
And that was a smart decision to go off speed. Auburn's a very strong defensive team, so they're going to handle a back row attack probably pretty well defensively. So going off speed catches them off guard, and they can't come up with the dig.
Go to the outside, and that is a really nice look at Brenna McElroy, who leads the team with 3 kills per set. She's also got 28 service aces added to her game, and they missed her when she was out with her knee injury.
And that tells you a lot about her, that she still leads the team in total kills when she missed a number of matches for Auburn.
Crystal Rivers, once again, looking very comfortable in the opposite position on the right side.
And since Tomlak moved to the setting position, at first they were running it pretty high, and it seems like they're trying to run it a little bit faster now that they've played together a little bit longer, getting a little more comfortable.
Natalie Murison trying to control it. Goes over the net, out of bounds. Point for Auburn. And Krista Rivers, I mentioned, looking very comfortable on the right side. That is her position, but she's a 6-rotation player and can get kills all across the net and in the back row.
Absolutely.
Back to serve now is Brenna McElroy, sophomore from Garland, Texas. Good serve. Quick to the middle, Haley McSparron. McElroy with the dig. Pass on point. Crystal Rivers not able to terminate, though. Out of the back row, the push by McElroy. Tomlak, high. Crystal Rivers, good up by Jessie Earl. Haley McSparron out of the middle, and that will end that rally.
And McSparron did a great job of saving that set. It was low, and she just kept it in, and Jessie Earl didn't pick it up. But this was a great pickup by Jessie Earl. She sent the ball over, but probably that ball goes down on a lot of other defensive players.
Jessie Earl with 537 digs heading into this match. That's a school record. And the point there will go to the Auburn Tigers. Very high energy already in the very early going of this first set.
Absolutely. You can tell this is a rivalry match because both teams really are bringing everything they've got right now.
Good serve by Barksdale, straight at Quincy Gary there. And Brittany Thomas thought she might be able to squeak it through that Auburn block, but that is a big block on the right side.
And I think a lot of teams take for granted how well Alexa Philly blocks. She's undersized, but she really can block well, so you cannot hit it into her hands or she'll block you.
Crystal Rivers finds a look on the cross-court shot, and a timeout. The Auburn Tigers down to the tie, 15-12 here in set one in T-Town. Here in this rivalry matchup between the Tide and the Tigers. Now, don't forget, coming up in intermission, you're going to want to stay tuned. Don't need to get some Coke or a popcorn or anything like that because the NCAA will reveal their top 10 ranking. Now, of course, that will be determined by the NCAA as sort of a prelude to what we'll see for potentially the NCAA tournament. It has the RPI included in there, but also the committee's thoughts in terms of who looks
neat to see right now at this point. We haven't had that, just a little bit of a glimpse into what the committee is looking at this point in the season, and you know who, based on their body of work at this point, who is in the top 10, and you know it's really going to be telling of just what we may see come selection time.
Back underway here in Tuscaloosa, and Auburn's thought they had the point there, but it's going to go to Alabama. Our officials today, Ron Stahl, and our down official is Sharon Pierce. Now Rick Knoll talking to Sharon Pierce. Didn't quite get a look at exactly what happened there, Jenny, did you?
Well, the up official, he overruled the line judge. The line judge called the ball in, and Ron Stahl said, no, I think the ball was out, which I happen to agree. I think the ball was out, but he didn't want to challenge. Rick Knoll didn't want to challenge it.
So now challenge. That's Macy Reese out of the middle. Comes Brittany Thomas. Tried to go with a roll shot. Alabama is going to get called for the 4 contacts, and the point will go to the Tigers.
And Brittany Thomas, again, one of the things that she was doing in the last few matches was taking some pretty big rips, and Auburn has blocked her a few times in this first set, so now she's gone off speed a lot more. And we're going to have a challenge now. Alabama saying that they feel like that ball was touched when 4 contacts were called. And so we're going to see.
So each coach gets 3 challenges per match. And of course, now Sharon has the job to go to the replay to see if she can see what the coaches saw and if she has the ability to overturn this.
And I don't know that from that angle we're going to see much because it's pretty tough on that side, you know, because it was on the other side of the net.
Right.
So, you know, it did look like the blocker was kind of trying to hold her hand there and press at the last minute. So here is a better angle. That's a tough. It looks like it hits her hand. I think that made, because from the end zone angle, her hand was in line with the ball.
Sure.
It wasn't to the side of the ball. So if her hand's in line with the ball and it looks easily like it's in the area of the ball, then I think that she likely could have touched it.
So that is a very tight look at the net. And again, it happens so fast, which is why we have the challenge system this year for an opportunity for some of these specific calls, whether it's a touch at the net, whether the ball was in or out, to get looked at because the game is so fast. Here's another look.
And again, you see Macy Reese just really trying to hold her hand over. She was in line with the ball. We saw that on the first replay from the inline camera. And, you know, if her hand was in line and it's pressed over at the ball, she's saying no touch. And to me, that has to be that she just can't really tell from that angle if her hand got the ball or not.
So the initial call was that it was 4 contacts against Alabama, and that has been upheld here by Sharon Pierce and our officials. So play will resume. 3-point edge for the Crimson Tide in this rivalry match. Leah Lawrence tried to go over with a soft touch. Gwen Jones not able to terminate. Though Alabama is going to get called, Alabama will be called with a lift. Yes, that is the final call. That's what I'm sticking with, Jenny.
And Brittany Thomas just sent that second ball over, and a lift usually indicates prolonged contact with the player. And Ed Allen saying, she just played it right over. It came off of her pretty quick. He didn't think that should have been a lift.
Swing it out to Gwen Jones on the slide, and she is denied by the block of Brittany Thomas and Leah Lawrence.
And Alabama definitely trying to get a little bit of momentum on their side as they lost that challenge and then get the lift called on them. So a big timely block for Alabama to not let Auburn try to sneak back in this set.
So far it's been Alabama from the get-go in the driver's seat. Though Auburn has closed in on them multiple times in this first set. Brittany Thomas off the block. Back set, they go back to the freshman Jones. And that was Tomlak who had the first touch, going to get called with a lift.
And Ron Stahl is calling it pretty tight. So both of these teams are going to have to recognize that. And in a situation like that, just instead of trying to set this ball, Crystal Rivers should just bump set it and keep the ball in play, because he's setting the tone that he's going to call it pretty tight.
Kelly Stewart to serve, junior from Texas. Tomlak all over the place. Alabama out of system. It was Earl to set for Auburn. Here they go in transition. And Brenna McElroy fired up.
Good defense happening on both sides of the net, but Auburn that time digging the ball high enough where they could still run a quicker tempo offense and give Brenna McElroy that big swing.
Service error by Kelly Stewart. She's got 25 service aces this year, so very good at the service line, and that is their game. Auburn, not the best blocking team in the SEC. Rick Knoll will tell you that, but they are very good at the service line, and they always want to be aggressive. Brittany Thomas trying to hit her spot, and Kelly Stewart. Swing it out, soft touch by McElroy. Back set, Rivers. Goes up high, good dig by Earl. Over on 2 goes Philly. Crystal Rivers, cross court, and boy was that sharp.
And that time the block for Auburn probably a little too far outside based on where that ball was set. Leah Lawrence, the middle for Alabama, is the one who actually set it. And Crystal Rivers just had all kinds of room to swing cross court.
Brittany Thomas with a service error gives the point to the Auburn Tigers. And now it's Jessie Earl back to serve. Another good rotation for Auburn. Again, she's got the 38 service aces this year. Very aggressive with the serve. Through the block. And the call is going to go to Alabama. I think everybody for Auburn thought it was a touch off the block. Not the call.
And Rick Knoll asking his player, did she really touch it? And, you know, again, this is where coaches are having to ask their players, you know, did you touch it? Did you touch it? When it's you blocking, but in this situation, did Jessie Earl, he was asking Jessie Earl, did you see a touch? And, you know, so I don't know that from that replay we just saw that you would be able to overturn the original call.
So here we go. They push it out. There's that block set up. It looked like it might have gone off of Crystal Rivers' hands, though she said immediately no. Here's a good look.
And one of the things that you're looking for, does the spin of the ball change at all? Does the flight of the ball change at all? And it looked like McElroy sort of hit it off of the side of the ball anyways, which is going to put some of that side spin on it. So, again, I think it's just going to be hard to tell.
But the trajectory on the ball didn't change from when it left the hands on the other side for Auburn. So it did not look like anybody from Alabama touched it.
That would be my assumption as well, that from what you see in that replay, it doesn't look like the ball changes trajectory. It doesn't look like the spin changes after it goes by the blocker. So I don't know that there's enough evidence. Could it have grazed her arm? Absolutely. But I don't know that there's going to be enough evidence to overturn it.
So the call was that it was out. Auburn says Alabama touched it.
And even by that, there it looks like there's a little bit of space in between Crystal Rivers' arm and the ball when it goes past her. So I just don't think that they're going to be able to overturn the call.
And we're waiting to hear the official word from Shannon Pierce.
And it's going to be confirmed that the ball was out, that there was no touch.
Both of these teams fighting for every single point, and why not? As we mentioned, 5 matches remaining. Both have that slight sliver of hope that they still might get to the postseason. Rick Knoll calling a timeout here. Again, Auburn with a tough mountain to climb on that end at 111 in the RPI. They've got a lot of top quality RPI teams remaining on their schedule. We'll get to that thought in just a moment. We'll have the top 3 teams in the college football playoff rankings, all 9-0 on our air Saturday. And we start with Mississippi State taking on number 1 Alabama in T-Town at noon Eastern on ESPN. Then at 3:30 on ABC, the Pitt Panthers are in Death Valley to battle the second-ranked Clemson Tigers. Cap off the day, it's number 3 Michigan and Iowa at 8 on ABC. All 3 of those games are on ESPN, also streaming live on Watch ESPN. So we mentioned Alabama has Florida coming up, the only really top RPI team remaining for them. But for Auburn, they've got Missouri, they've got Florida, and they've got Texas A&M, Jenny.
And when we talk about the RPI, it's a mathematical formula. So your own win percentage, your opponent's win percentage. So Auburn's going to get a jump in their RPI because their opponent's win percentage is high with those remaining matches. And then if they win, they'll get that bump in their RPI from their own win percentage numbers. So, you know, they do. It's not that they're totally out of the picture. It's just that they have a pretty tough road, a lot of very good teams that they've got to go through to make that happen.
And again, the NCAA Division I Women's Volleyball Committee will reveal a top 10 ranking tonight at intermission of our match. And of course, that's all based off of the RPI, head-to-head competition, results versus common opponents, and really who looks good in the eyes of the committee. And you will see that at intermission of this very match. So keep it locked and loaded. Crystal Rivers, by the way, in the last matchup versus Auburn, hit 167 with the 21 kills tonight so far, hitting 643 with 9 kills. The joust at the net won by Alabama and Bondi on a P-Day.
And a great serve by Leah Lawrence that time, forcing the overpass against a pretty good ball control team in Auburn.
So the tie closing in on set point here in set number 1. When Jones, that's going to be a kill for the freshman.
And when you need a big kill, Gwen Jones is a good target to go to. She, again, has been so steady all season for the Tigers. And here, coming up with a clutch kill. She goes in that seam, so a little bit in between the 2 defenders. That's a tougher ball to dig.
Crystal Rivers, dug up by Jessie Earl. Swing it back out to McElroy, and she is blocked by the freshman Haley McSparron.
And talk about a big block in front of you. Brenna McElroy is looking at Crystal Rivers and Haley McSparron, who just put up a wall when they're both there and on time.
Now, Alabama, maybe not the best blocking team either. We mentioned Auburn, not so great in that statistical category, but Alabama came up with 14 blocks to beat Arkansas on Sunday. That is a season high. And Coach Ed Allen said, they switched from swing blocking to static blocking the last 2 games, and that has really made a difference.
And I think one of the biggest differences, if you're a swing blocking team, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to do the right things. You can't drift all over the court. There are a lot of things that, your blockers have to do well and to do correctly. And so for Alabama, maybe feeling like, we were getting tooled so much, we weren't in good position, that if going back to static blocking has allowed them to put up a little more of a solid block.
So far, so good here today. Both teams actually sitting at 2 blocks apiece. The college basketball season tips off Friday, Veterans Day, and we honor those who served and salute the troops with a 5th annual State Farm Armed Forces Classic from Honolulu. It's number 10 Arizona and number 12 Michigan State at 7 p.m. Eastern, then 11th ranked Indiana and number 3 Kansas. Both of those games are on ESPN and also streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. I know Spartan fans looking forward to basketball season. The football season has not quite gone the way they have anticipated, hoping that Tom Izzo can create another fantastic season for Michigan State. Now, Michigan State volleyball has had a great season. They always have a great season. And speaking of that, the Big Ten just dominant in not only the top 25 rankings, but the RPA. And I suspect when you see the top 10 reveal at intermission, it's going to be very Big Ten heavy. Serve cut. Auburn all out of system, and McSparran puts it down easily, and Alabama really pulling away in this first set. And great job by Haley McSparran that time of staying at the net to block, because it was a free ball coming over from McElroy, but she stayed there and came up with a key block. Good serve over the net tape by Crystal Rivers. It's the touch there, quick to the middle, and Haley McSparran. And that is going to be another kill for the freshman. And again, another match where Alabama is really spreading the offense. And that has been key because, Crystal Rivers, everybody knows that she's going to get the ball. This is the second time Auburn is playing Alabama. And so they're going to even know some of her tendencies that much more. So spreading it out helps keep Auburn on their toes and not able to set up their block and defense. That is set point for Alabama, but the Tigers will hang around for another point. So set point number 2, here we go, and it is Brenna McElroy back to serve. Again, another very good serving rotation for the Tigers, down 24-19. That's an ace. And Alabama passing 2 in this rotation. So you've got Natalie Murison and Brittany Thomas as the only 2 passers back there. So when Brenna McElroy just paints the sideline with that tough top spin serve, Brittany Thomas couldn't get over there. Set point number 3 for the Tide. Tomlak sets Rivers high. Earl there with the dig. In the middle, Barksdale, no. High ball for on a payday, just sends it over. Back set, Barksdale hammers it home. And a miscue on the block for Alabama with the front row setter. Both blockers kind of staying with the setter, Alexa Philly. So when she sets Barksdale, there's nobody there to put up a block in front of her. I don't know about you, but this has been a lot of fun. Absolutely. These 2 teams battling it out, and it's been, Alabama's got a nice little lead here, but it's been a great match so far. The series history between the 2 teams, it is tied up the last 10 matches at 5 apiece, but the Crimson Tide does lead the all-time matchup 46-30, and you mentioned it earlier, these 2 teams played back on October 9th with the Tigers winning 3-1, and again, what was a very fruitful October for the Auburn Tigers, coming off some big-time injuries, finished 6-2 for the month, and I'd have to say, one of the hottest teams in the SEC at that time. I would agree. Auburn has been playing very, very well. Really seem to be firing on all cylinders. When they're serving in, they serve tough. And, when they lost that match in 5 against Kentucky, missed a number of serves, and they know that they have to keep serving tough to give them chances to beat teams. That's just a hallmark of their team this season. But just missed, a few too many. They had match point. They had swings at match point against Kentucky. So just playing great volleyball right now. As Rick Knowles said heading into this matchup, it's just to continue to do what has gotten them to this point, and that identity of serving tough and being aggressive. And you go back to that Kentucky match, as you mentioned, and he said, we just got a little sloppy. And if we can clean it up and do what we know how to do behind the service line, we can hang with any team in the league.
And I agree with that because they play good defense. They have hitters that they can set all over the court. All 5 of their hitters can get kills when they need them to. So they've got the abilities to beat some of the top SEC teams, but they just can't play sloppy, as Coach Nold said.
Set point number 4 for the Crimson Tide. And that touches the antenna off the serve, so the point will go to Alabama. Well, we said it's a rivalry matchup. Auburn took the first one between the two teams 3-1 back in October. The Crimson Tide looking for a little magic here in November, taking the first set 25-21. The Tide rolled in that opening set 25-21 over their in-state rivals, the Auburn Tigers. Crystal Rivers leading the way with 9 kills, hitting .562 so far in the match. Has 2 digs and a block to add to her total. She finished with 21 kills against the Auburn Tigers earlier this year. The redshirt senior has been a catalyst, and even saying that is an understatement for the Tide this year.
And you can see her career. She came to Alabama in 2000 treatment. You know, she was still practicing when she was undergoing treatment. I mean, just such a special player. Then the doctor said she was in remission, and Coach Allen said she never missed anything that they did.
We have talked about it on the air and in private that we feel like she is somebody that should be strongly considered for the SEC Player of the Year. It's not the Team of the Year honor, it's the Player of the Year. And you subtract Crystal Rivers from Alabama, and do they even have the record they have now?
I don't think so. And, you know, you just look at the performances that she has had, and, you know, what any other player you would consider a breakout performance with 30-plus kills. Crystal Rivers does it all the time. And, you know, 20-kill matches, 30-kill matches, that's regular for her. She's had that more often than not this season. So I definitely think she's my favorite for Player of the Year. And as I talk to coaches around the league, they agree.
5 matches this season with 30-plus kills for Crystal. 38 kills twice this season. Second set underway. Barksdale on the slide, and she is wide on the attempt. The opening point will go to Alabama. Now, during all the injuries, kind of at the beginning of October, Barksdale was a huge factor, as well as Macy Reese for Auburn. And now that they've got Brenna McElroy back, all the pieces sort of fell in place for this Tigers team. And as you mentioned, they have so many weapons they can go to across the net. Barksdale is one of them. And on the other side, Crystal Rivers, well, she's the big one for the Tide.
And again, just seeming more and more comfortable with the switch at the setter position after Shannon McKeskey broke her nose and has not been able to play. She came back for 1 match, but then couldn't keep playing after that. And you can just see the comfort level for Rivers has really improved.
Good up there by Natalie Murison. Rivers from the back row. Over on 2 goes Philly. Quincy Gary there. Missed it in the middle. Leah Lawrence. And the second attempt hits pay dirt.
A nice job by Leah Lawrence, just staying with it at the net. You see some great defense there by Quincy Gary. And the first attempt was blocked, but Leah Lawrence was right there ready for it and then put a pretty tough tip down on Auburn's side.
So Philly went over to talk to our up official Ron Stahl. And is Coach Rick Knoll asking for a double contact? He's talking to Sharon Pierce, our down official here. And no challenge. I don't know if there's a question.
I think that Ron Stahl was just saying he didn't want him arguing the lack of ball handling errors being called. And because I think Rick Knoll was just saying, all I did was raise my 2 fingers, saying I think that should have been a double. He wasn't yelling or anything like that.
Sure.
And the up official saying, don't argue the judgment calls.
Just give him a warning. McElroy with the service. Brittany Thomas on the move, out of the back row, and another attack error for Brittany Thomas.
And
That was
right
her
now,
fourth of the evening. Go ahead, Jenny.
yeah, it just seems like Alabama is making a few more unforced errors. We did see some of that early in that first set, but they can't give Auburn too many easy points because then they can run away with it.
And score from the service line. Once again, Brenna McElroy with another ace.
And Brenna McElroy, one of a number of top servers for this Auburn team. She can go on long runs of points from the service line.
And this time she goes long. So the point to Alabama. Side out for the tie. Bondi on a payday rotates back in. Quincy Gary rotates out, so they get some size at the net for this rotation. And you see the two aces here tonight, both coming from that lady, Brenna McElroy. It's a good serve. Auburn just sends it over. Tomlak to the middle, and Leah Lawrence opening up the offense for the tie.
And one of the things that Tomlak does so well is she runs the middle. She runs off. Alabama, runs it very fast. Their middles get in, they're ready. And so for a setter to connect as well as she does with them, I'm really happy for the freshman.
Brittany Thomas out of the back row. This time, no attack error. Puts it down for the kill.
And Brittany Thomas, again, a player that Alabama can't afford for her to not take big full swings. She can't just go off speed because Auburn will be able to make adjustments to that. And she took a nice big full swing there.
Serves it into the net. And you've noticed each time Brittany Thomas has been back there at the service line, she's hitting a specific target and going short each and every time.
And teams often do that to try to disrupt the opposing team's offense and some of their hitters' patterns in their approach.
Crystal Rivers high over the block and a little too high, a little too heavy, and she serves it, swings long for the kill attempt. It's Barksdale back to serve. Again, the Tigers 14-12 on the year, 8-5 in the SEC. Trying to run the table here in the final month of the regular season. Getting up high there was Courtney Crable. And that is going to be a kill for Brittany Thomas.
And a smart decision by Tomlak to go to Brittany Thomas on the out-of-system ball instead of Crystal Rivers, because Crystal Rivers would have had a solid double block in front of her. Brittany Thomas only had one blocker and is able to get the kill.
Alabama, again, we mentioned them moving from the swing blocking to the static blocking, and as Coach Ed Allen told me before the game, he said it's not about getting the full block, but just getting the touch to be able to have an option in transition.
And you can see the block again here for Alabama as they have a solid double block up on that middle attack. But you're absolutely right. Getting good touches, positive touches are very important to your team, not just stuff blocking the ball.
So the service error by Leah Lawrence. She will rotate out. And now back to serve is Alexa Philly. So you see these service errors, 6 for Alabama, 3 for the Tigers. Tomlak very tight to the net on a payday. She is dug up. McElroy, dig by Thomas. Here comes Crystal Rivers, just pushes it through the block. Macy Reese, no. Rivers, high again, yes. And it's the 11th kill for Crystal Rivers, just one attack error today.
Yeah, and Crystal Rivers when she's in full rhythm, so taking a full approach and a full swing, she's just really tough to defend. She can hit so many areas of the court. It's really impressive.
That serve also very impressive. Jones on the slide, and I don't know if that was more of a setting issue as it was. She just thought maybe it was a little higher than it was.
Well, and Auburn likes to run Gwen Jones pretty fast to that pin, and the pass was pulled forward, so it was tough for her to catch up. But Auburn trying to play catch up here in this second set.
You are watching the SEC on ESPN. This rivalry matchup between the Tide and Tigers. So far, Alabama with a lead after taking the opening frame, 25-21, and trying to extend that to a 2-0 lead before the intermission. Alyssa Leah alongside Jenny Hazelwood here at Foster Auditorium. Crystal Rivers right now with 11 kills, hitting .455 1 attack error so far, 2 digs and a block for the Tigers with the 4 kills. Rivers still back at the service line. Very dangerous back there. Courtney Crable gets her off though.
And that's a rotation for Auburn where they run Macy Reese, who's playing in the middle, but a former outside, swinging on the outside. So the blockers, if it's a good pass, they really have to worry about all 3 attackers. And that time you saw one-on-one from Crable.
Yeah, Crable is somebody that came up sick during the summer, lost a lot of strength and endurance, and has really had to work her way back. On a payday, and the block is there. Macy Reese getting a big touch.
And we talked about them moving Macy Reese from the outside to the middle. It was for blocking, was a big part of that, because she really can do a great job of closing a block and getting some big blocks for Auburn.
Crystal Rivers, and she is denied. Macy Reese with that 6'2" frame getting a piece.
And not only is she tall, but she's just gets in good position. She presses her hands over the net, so has really good form to come up with those blocks.
Back set, Gwen Jones, and she is denied on the other pen on a payday. And McSparron, a couple of twin towers for the Tide.
And Oni Payday is another converted player. She's been in the middle the majority of her career, but Alabama shorthanded on the outside, and getting some big blocks there for Alabama.
Alabama desperately needing a big-time outside hitter with a loss of Kat Hudson, who, as we mentioned early on in this match, has missed the entire SEC slate due to concussion protocol. And that's a player that was giving Alabama 3.5 kills per set, and she is riding the bench so far this season. That's a service error by Jessie Earl. Side out and point to the Tide.
And Auburn continuing to serve tough, but they've missed quite a few. So Coach Nold saying that he didn't need his team to be sloppy, and probably a little bit sloppy right now with their serves as much as they're missing.
Barksdale off the Leah Lawrence block. They go quick to Lawrence. They give and go. She got it done defensively and turned around and picks up the kill offensively.
And I just love what the Alabama middles do when they run their quick attacks. They literally are taking the ball right out of the setter's hands. They're very fast, and they force opposing blocks to either commit jump with them or they're going to be late. Very
short serve by Natalie Murison. Good up by Quincy Gary. Here comes Brittany Thomas off the block. Stewart on the ground, and Brittany Thomas gets it done. Another big block for the Tide. And I know we talked about how they're not swing blocking anymore, but this isn't a situation where you would swing block anyways. I just think that their timing is better, their hand position and stuff is very good, and they're getting a lot of big blocks. This time it's Auburn and McElroy tooling the Alabama block. But again, just getting the quality touches, but it's not just the touches, they're actually closing on the blocks. Looking very good so far. Auburn with 4 blocks in the match, Alabama with 5. Thomas tools the block, picks up another point for Alabama. And that time, Brittany Thomas choosing to go off of the smaller block of Alexa Philly. And remember, she can block well if you hit down into her hands. So nice job of swinging high hands on that play. And she's had her 3 triple doubles this year. The blocks have been included, as you see Barksdale on a beautiful slide play. And that was just a miss timing on the Alabama side, because both blockers jumped with the front row setter, Alexa Philly. And when you see a play like that happening, one of the blockers has to be responsible for the front row setter and the other one for that middle going behind on the quick attack, and just not doing a good job of that for Alabama. Brittany Thomas dug up again by Jessie Earl. There's a joust at the net. Philly gets it over. Off hands goes Crystal Rivers. In the middle, Barksdale looking for that sharp edge, and she got it. And it seems like Auburn is trying to run their middles a lot more now, even in some medium passes. I would say that ball was about 5 or 6 feet off the net, still forcing Barksdale and trying to stretch that Alabama block that's been so successful. 4 kills for her. Remember, a very good serving rotation for Auburn gets the Tide out of system. Auburn in transition. Courtney Crable, yes.
And Crable had a single block that time. Again, that's what running your middles a lot is going to do. Leah Lawrence had to stay with Barksdale, and so when Philly set that ball out to Crable, she had the one-on-one and came up with a kill.
McElroy just over the net tape. Give her third ace of the night. Timeout, Ed Allen, and we are tied up at 15 all. It has been Alabama in the driver's seat so far. Set number one from the get-go. They started out strong here in set number two, and now Auburn creeping right back. So we talk about what a great player Crystal Rivers is in all 6 rotations, but she's really, really good when Alabama is in system.
And when Alabama passes well, it's really tough
look at what makes
on the
Crystal
blockers.
Rivers a really good right side. The first thing is the ability to hit the in-system ball. So this pass is right to the setter, so all 3 blockers have to worry about these 3 attackers for Alabama. And if this right side is not a serious threat, then this blocker is likely going to load up so that they can get a really good block up on these 2 attackers. But because Crystal Rivers is such a great right side, the blockers have to stay in their home position and worry about these 3 attackers. So what that leads to is a split in the block for Crystal Rivers. She's got all of this area of the court that she can hit because the block had to worry about all of the attackers in system. And the result is a big kill for Alabama.
So Ed Allen will tell you Crystal Rivers might not be the best, quote, volleyball player he's ever coached, but she certainly is one of the best athletes he has ever coached, and her numbers back it up.
And again, she's someone that just makes it so tough on opposing teams because of what she's able to do. And a lot of it is because of her athleticism. She hits the ball very, very high. But, you know, she's really come along as a volleyball player, has learned a lot, I would say, through her time here at Alabama.
Closing in on the all-time school record in kills. Auburn in the midst of a 4-0 run with McElroy and her big-time serve at the line. Good dig by McElroy there. Tight to the net. Barksdale, no. Barksdale again, and denied by Brittany Thomas in the right place at the right time.
And Brittany Thomas, very smart with her blocking assignment there because Auburn did not have an attacker behind the setter. So Leah Lawrence was releasing to the outside pin, but Brittany Thomas stayed in to help with that middle, and she was the only block up, and she came up with a big block.
Thomas, the senior from Chandler, Arizona. Alabama will lose a lot next year. Offensively, Crystal Rivers past the Barksdale block and gets it to go.
And the reason Crystal Rivers can be so dangerous, she can hit that deeper corner with a lot of pace, but she also goes sharp a lot so that right back defender can't go stand in one spot or the other because she can hit them both.
I would love to get a radar gun on Crystal Rivers and her swing. That is a heavy, heavy arm. And the fault, they're going to say Alabama was in the net, and the point will go to the Tigers.
And I think that's a good call, and it looked like the up official made that call, which is strange because usually it's the down official that's what they're looking at. They would see that, and but you know, the way the net bounced, a lot of times you can tell even just by, that it had to have been a player in the net. It wasn't the ball.
Sure. That's Ron Stahl up there, our down official Sharon Pierce, and that's going to be an ace.
And the passing here for Auburn can't afford to break down. Again, passing 2. So, you know, these 2 are pretty strong in their passing. But if Auburn goes on a run here late, it could be tough for Alabama to get back.
Tied up again at 17 all. On a payday, try to push it through the block. Nothing doing.
And again, another pass that wasn't very good. So Tomlak didn't have all of her hitting options available. She just had to set it up to the outside. Not a very good set. It was tight. And Onipede couldn't get around the block.
Her second attack error here tonight. Tomlak just sends up a high ball to Crystal Rivers and to the back corner. And I'm just guessing off of your reaction just now, the silent reaction, Jenny, that was pretty good.
She hit that ball very hard. It's right in front of us, so you can just see how hard she's hitting the ball. And again, defenders can't just get over there and make a play on that. If they're not standing there, they're not going to get that ball up.
Tied up at 18. Macy Reese, very good decision, pushes it over to some wide open real estate next to the net on that outside pin.
And Reese had a solid double block in front of her, and since Alabama has been so good on the block, she also had the middle playing in the back row instead of the libero, so very smart decision to go to that spot.
Alabama out of system on a payday off the antenna. The point will go to Auburn. And now Auburn in control, creating some separation here, up 2 in this second set.
And this match, just everything we thought it would be. Two teams really getting after it. Teams that want to get into the conversation for the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot on the line, plus the pride of the Auburn-Alabama matchup.
Well, they want to get to the NCAA tournament. The question is it too little, too late for these two teams? Auburn sitting at 111 in the RPI, Alabama sitting at 68. Well, the NCAA Selection Committee is going to give you a little taste of what they're thinking about right now at the beginning of November. And then we'll also talk about Jenny's top 4. All of that coming up at intermission. We don't even know what the sneak peek looks like, so we're all going to see it together here at intermission. You don't want to leave the couch. No popcorn, no Coke. You better get that right now, in fact.
And my top 4, you can see 3 of them out of the Big Ten. Nebraska, number 1 in the country right now in the rankings. Minnesota, Wisconsin, 3 teams that could absolutely win it all. And Texas, again, just doing a great job as they always do.
And I think, if I'm a betting woman, that we're going to see all of those teams in that top 10 release by the NCAA and the selection committee coming up here at intermission. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see those 4 teams in there. Again, very Big Ten heavy, if you will, which is also the case not just in the RPI, but in the top 25 standings as well. 3-headed monster with Nebraska, Wisconsin, and
Minnesota.
There you go.
And Minnesota, you know, a team that Hugh McCutcheon, the coach there, has done an outstanding job. They play so well. You know, Wisconsin, another team that does such a good job just in all phases of the game. And, of course, Nebraska. I mean, they're so good. So it's just the Big Ten is so tough.
The defending national champs. We'll see how it all shakes down in December. Meanwhile, Auburn trying to take a set here in Tuscaloosa, up 2 in set 2. And Courtney Crable coming up with a big-time kill out of the timeout.
And Auburn that time setting Crable a little bit inside the court to try to beat the block of Alabama, and she did just that. The block didn't get adjusted quick enough.
Good serve by Alexa Philly. Alabama just has to send it over. Free ball incoming. Philly, quick set to the middle, and Macy Reese and Auburn looks like they are in the driver's seat to take this second set.
And Auburn has definitely been serving tough like we normally see from them and getting some bad passes. And then when they get an easy ball back, Macy Reese and company are taking some big swings.
An 11-3 run for Auburn. That is a miss hit in the middle by McSparran, and the point will go to Auburn.
And the ball was under set. It never cleared the tape. So McSparran was trying to just make contact, try to keep it in, and she couldn't.
It's going to be served out, service error. Now Alabama will get a chance to try to string some points together with Crystal Rivers, their best server, back at the line. Macy Reese gets her off the service line, and that is huge for Auburn and puts them at set point.
And when Macy Reese moved to the middle position, they used to not run her on the outside in that rotation, but they were having a hard time getting out of that rotation. It's their weakest side-out rotation, and since they've started doing that, they've been very good.
Set point for the Tigers. Back set, Gwen Jones on the slide, tools the block, and we are all knotted up at a set apiece here in this rivalry matchup in Tuscaloosa. So don't forget, coming up, the Division I Women's Volleyball Committee will reveal a top 10 ranking that is coming up here at intermission. We will also break down the first 2 sets between the Tide and Tigers. This in-state rivalry heating up here inside Foster Auditorium. So we're at Alabama. You think we're at Arkansas. Everybody's saying, woo, pig suey, a lot of free bacon. It's free bacon night. Jenny, why didn't you get me some? It's Melissa Lee alongside Jenny Hazelwood. And the question is, where's the beef when you're talking about the reveal from the NCAA committee? And if you're BYU, that's the question you're asking. That's the one team that's sitting at number 7 in the RPI right now, but left out of the top 10. Your thoughts?
Well, BYU, too, is a team that's ranked pretty high in the AVCA coaches poll. They're 12th currently, so probably a little disappointed for them right now, but there's still time left to go in the season. And Washington gets that number 10 spot, who's 13th in the RPI and currently 11th in the AVCA coaches poll. So maybe a little bit of a surprise there that Washington jumped in the top 10, but the committee looks at the body of work. They look at everything these teams have done all season long, not just the RPI, not just the rankings, but just what they were doing in the teams that they've beaten, what they've done in some of the matches that they've lost. So obviously the committee saw something that they liked in what Washington has done so far this season compared to some of those other teams. And that's what we'll see come selection time, that's what they look at.
The Florida Gators in there, obviously an SEC team. Missouri just on the outside in the RPI at 12 on the outside, of course, looking into that top 10. But here in Tuscaloosa, Leslie alongside Jenny Hazelwood, it's been a pretty fantastic matchup, an in-state rivalry match between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers, tied up at a set apiece.
And Crystal Rivers continuing her ways, scoring a lot of points for Alabama. She's really swinging hard at a lot of balls here tonight. And Brenna McElroy has not only been fantastic offensively like we're used to seeing, but from the service line, she is scoring a lot of points and a lot of big points in critical moments for Auburn.
And the side-out percentage, very good for Alabama at 72% in that first set, which is why they won. Only 37%, though, in set number 2.
And siding out at 37% means that when the other team is serving, if you get the serve back, you're siding out. Well, if you're siding out at that low of a percentage, then the other team is scoring a lot of points from the service line to build that lead. So Alabama definitely going to have to side out at a higher percentage if they want to win this match.
Auburn serving is the name of the game. They've got the 4 service aces here today, and they sided out at a pretty good percentage, 62% in set number 1, 50% in set number 2. 15 points for the Auburn Tigers. That is how many points they scored just off of their serve so far in this match, or should I say in set number 2, which is why they won set number 2.
And again, when you look at a box score, you can look at those side-out percentages. And if a team is siding out at a very low percentage, that means the other team scored a lot of points off of their serve.
Set number 3 underway, and a very good serve right out of the gate by the Auburn Tigers. Philly back set, Gwen Jones. And it's going to be a net violation against Alabama, though Brittany Thomas arguing, saying, I didn't touch the net, coach.
And I just was looking at Ed Allen asking the down official what was in the net, and she said that her body was, and he's not going to challenge it. That is one of the things that they could challenge.
Over on 2 goes Tom Lack, sends Philly diving, takes her out of the play, and the Alabama block flexing its muscle in this third set.
And we talked about the Alabama block and how much improved it is. You can see both blockers standing there. They're ready. They time it well, and it's just tough to swing around. It's up to the Auburn hitters to try to swing around the block. They can see where it's lining up. They've got to swing around the blockers.
7th block for Alabama in the match. Tomlak on the move on a payday. Block was there, and everybody trying to get involved to get it back over on the other side. Leah Lawrence, a little shook up on the play.
And Ane Payday has a few times swung right into the block of Auburn and just has had a hard time covering herself, even sometimes when it hasn't come off very hard when they could pick it up. And we saw another example of that right there.
Pushed by Leah Lawrence. Philly sends it over. Nice move. Here comes Crystal Rivers. Cross-court kill.
We talked about how Crystal Rivers can hit that corner so hard, and then when she can go more to the sharp sideline, that's why it makes it really hard for a defender to really dig her balls or line up into any one spot because she can hit with such range.
Well, as Rick Knoll told us, they know Crystal Rivers is going to get hers in terms of her kills. Right now, she's got 14. She had 21 against them in the first match that they won, but it's taking away the other options for Alabama. And so far, depending on what point in time in the match you've been watching, it's been a tough go for them. Philly, the set, and tooling the block is McElroy.
And more to your point on that, Arkansas on Sunday really minimized Crystal Rivers offensively, but still lost the match. And so some coaches saying, hey, we're going to try to do what we can to slow down Crystal Rivers. Other coaches saying, hey, you know what, she's going to get her kills, but if we can shut everybody else down, we can have a better chance to win.
It's a lot harder to win a game when you're all by yourself and one player. And at times, Crystal Rivers has done that as she gets the kill and goes back to the service line. Just a huge component to everything this Crimson Tide team has done this year. Did not get the bounce off the net tape, service error, and the point will go to the Tigers.
And one thing that Crystal Rivers has struggled with so far in this match is I don't feel like they're going on runs of points when she's behind the service line, and it's something that Alabama has had this season.
And something that Auburn has done, as you see the ace by Barksdale, primarily when McElroy is back at the service line. As you see, the 5 service aces for Auburn, that is the name of the game for the Tigers this year.
You saw 7 service errors for Alabama with only 1 ace. Those are numbers a coach is not happy with.
And speaking of pretty good numbers, Alexa Philly putting up pretty good numbers this year. Gets another kill after taking it over on 2.
And you'd mentioned Alexa Philly getting triple doubles. Well, one of the 3 categories is kills. She can get kills from the setting position.
Assists, blocks, and kills for her. And there she goes again, trying to get another one, and she does.
And she's very smart with her placement when she's putting the ball over on 2. She went short to the middle of the court on the play before, then pushes that one to the deep corner, and that's why she's had success, because she can mix it up.
McSparran with authority out of the middle gets her off the service line.
And when the set's there for McSparran, she can really crush the ball, as you saw on that play there. So if Tomlak can continue to get her a ball that she can swing at, she'll keep getting kills.
It's Quincy Gary back to serve. McSparran with 6 kills. Behind Crystal Rivers leading the team. Rivers with 15 at Macy Reese. She has 4 so far here tonight.
And Macy Reese runs a slower tempo middle attack, the exact opposite from what we're seeing from Alabama's 2 middles. But again, a converted outside playing middle with injuries to the Auburn Tigers, and she is very successful even with a higher attack out of the middle.
She's someone Rick Knoll, when I asked who's really stepped up during that October stretch, and he said Macy Reese was a big one as Alabama picks up the kill there. And you mentioned a lot of new faces in some new places for Auburn, and they finally got it to gel.
And you talk about Macy Reese just finding a way to make it work in her role. She's not trying to be a middle that she is not, running it fast and doing all those things.
Sure.
She's very good on that slower tempo middle attack.
And very good on the slide is Gwen Jones. I'll tell you, she's just a freshman, does not play like a freshman. And you got to look forward to what she's going to bring this Tiger team for years to come.
And when Auburn is in system, so their passes along the net, they run it so fast to Gwen Jones behind the setter that she almost always has a single block.
Leah Lawrence not able to terminate there. Jessie Earl to set, and Gwen Jones puts it away. Auburn all out of system, but they made it work.
And we talked about how good Gwen Jones is in system, but out of system, that they can still go to her. They still run it pretty quick for an out of system set, and she's successful.
And is served out by Kelly Stewart, who tried to take it deep to the back corner and served it wide. Is a 3-point edge for the Auburn Tigers, up 10-7. We are split at a set apiece here in Tuscaloosa. Tomlak serves it short to Stewart. Push it out, McElroy. Murison got the initial up. Back set, Gwen Jones slide, yes.
And again, when you've got a good pass for Auburn and Gwen Jones runs with this kind of tempo. You had a free ball coming over, so a good pass. The blockers have to worry about each of the 3 hitters. So she's going to have a one-on-one because with that fast of a set, there's no way the middle can close the block.
Jones is leading the way for the Auburn Tigers with 8 kills. Only 4 attack errors, hitting .235. She's also got 3 blocks and a dig added to that stat line. Crystal Rivers goes high and puts it down low. My goodness.
And again with Crystal Rivers taking the big rip from the outside. And you saw in that replay, Tomlak looked fully under the net. So maybe a little bit of a missed call. Lucky break for Alabama on that one.
Crystal Rivers, even though she's a right side and the outsides get all the junk, Crystal Rivers can get a lot of junk but turn it into gold for the Crimson Tide. And this time Gwen Jones not able to connect the way she wanted to on that kill. Maybe not the best set as Brittany Thomas goes back to serve.
And I think they were trying to run her closer to the setter that time, but it looked like Gwen Jones went a little bit further away, and so she couldn't get a good swing.
Thomas going to Stewart on the target. Out of the middle, Barksdale. No, on a payday to set. Thomas just sends it over. Philly, McElroy off the block. Tomlak, back set. Crystal Rivers, yes. She's gone cross court and decided, I'm going to take line if it's there.
And that ball was again crushed, but you see the adjustment that McElroy had to make, stepping in more to the cross court because she was blocking by herself, and it opened up a huge line for Rivers to swing.
3-0 run for Alabama. Give and go out of the middle, Leah Lawrence. You gotta like it when you've got a balanced offense, and so far that has been the case. Auburn can't hone in on any one player.
And the fast middle attack, the middle's in the air. Auburn cannot commit over there because they have to worry about Crystal Rivers. Leaves her with no block in front of her.
McElroy very tight on that sharp cross-court kill. Ends a 4-0 run for the Crimson Tide. So you think this is a rivalry match?
You can just feel the energy. It is different in here when these teams are going at it.
It is a lot of fun, I'll tell you. We hope you're having as much fun watching it as we are seeing it live. Crystal Rivers denied on the block, and that'll get it done for the Auburn Tigers, giving them the point.
And Crystal Rivers got blocked quite a bit Sunday against Arkansas. She really seems to have done a better job of swinging around the block so far in this match.
Tate Pember with that short serve. Crystal Rivers just gets it over on the push. Brenna McElroy, hey, good up there by Jessie Earl. But the point's going to go to Alabama.
Both players trying to play that ball over for Auburn kind of got in each other's way, and so they got in the net and gave Alabama a pretty easy point.
Not a lot of freebies given up here in this third set. We saw kind of a few and a run of points for both teams in set 1 and 2, but both teams have really cleaned up their play, and right as I say that, there's a service error.
And I really think that was the difference for Auburn in the first set. They had missed a number of serves. And so even though they're getting aces, I think they probably got a lot of those aces in the second set. But, you know, they were giving Alabama a lot of easy points, and they just haven't seemed to be doing that as much since.
And 6 service errors for the game. Alabama out of system, just has to send it over. Philly. And give Philly credit trying to go one-on-one there with Bonnie on a payday, 6 foot even, the junior from Houston, Texas, with a big-time block.
And smart job of blocking by Ani Payday because she is the sole person responsible for the setter. So she does her job and makes sure that she defends her as an attacker.
Graybowl. Ball kept alive by the Tide. Rivers sends it over. Philly, Barksdale, yes, down the line.
And a touch off the block that time. Probably a little bit late on the block for Alabama as both teams are trying to take this all-important third set. You're watching the SEC on ESPN.
Some big-time SEC volleyball here in T-Town, Tuscaloosa. The Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers split at a set apiece. And right now it is the visiting team, the Tigers, with a 2-point edge here in set number 3. Melissa Lee alongside Jenny Hazelwood, and a lot of fun to watch these two rivals get after it.
And it's been really a tale of who is serving well. I think when Auburn is serving defense, I think in that first set, Auburn was getting out of system a little more from the tougher Alabama serve, which we haven't seen as much. So, you know, the serving and passing, as it always does, are going to be what determine this match.
So far in set 3, 5 ties, 2 lead changes. Auburn hitting 227 for the current set. Alabama hitting 235. You look at the sets, almost dead even across the board. That's a service ace. That is the edge so far in this match for the Auburn Tigers. They've got 6 service aces to Alabama's 1.
And Auburn really trying to go at that line at Onipede.
McSparron denied in the middle by Macy Reese.
And you saw it again there on that serve. They're really serving kind of at Onipede's head, trying to make Brittany Thomas step behind her to pass the ball. Thomas got a good pass, but Macy Reese coming up with the big block.
That is down the line and in. Our lines judge says it was in. Everybody for Alabama called it out.
And originally the flight of the ball, it looked like it might have been going out of bounds, but then it clearly landed in that corner.
And that is where Auburn has had their bread and butter all season, back at the service line. But we talked about Crystal Rivers on the right side in system for Alabama, but let's take a look at what Quinn Jones can do on the right side for the Tigers.
We're going to take a look at what makes Gwen Jones a good right side, and that's the ability to hit with tempo. On this pass here for Auburn, they've got 3 attackers, and Gwen Jones is the player here that will hit the faster tempo set for Auburn. This attacker is would hit a higher tempo ball, and this attacker would hit a higher tempo ball here too in this situation for Auburn. So the ability for Gwen Jones to run the faster attack over on the right side makes these 3 blockers who have to stay home on a good pass and worry about all 3 attackers. It gives them, Gwen Jones, the ability to get splits in the block and have all this room to hit on the court and come up with a big kill for Auburn.
And we've seen a number of those kinds of attacks for Gwen Jones so far in this match. She's got 8 kills already, and when they're in system, she has a one-on-one block every time.
5 kills for the third set alone, 2 blocks as well. And her team is up 18-13 in set number 3. Again, it was the Tigers taking the first meeting between the two teams this season, 3-1 back in early October. The Tigers would love the series sweep of the season of the Tide, and Alabama just getting out of the funk of a 4-match losing streak, beating Arkansas on Sunday. Would like to keep that trend going here tonight at home. 4-0 run for the Tigers. High ball to Onipede. Out of the back row, McElroy dug up by Thomas. And Tom Lack tried to go over on 2, and not going to happen.
And again, you just have to credit Macy Reese for being smart, reading what was happening in front of her, because the ball was a little bit tight, so she was ready to block that ball.
5-0 run for the Tigers. Onipede through the block this time. In the middle, Macy Reese tonight. They go out to the outside in that pin, and Courtney Crable touches the antenna, so the point will go to Alabama.
And that's a few times here that it has felt like Alabama was really struggling in a rotation, and it was going to take an unforced error by Auburn to get them out of it. So see if Alabama can take advantage of the unforced error.
Macy Reese found some open real estate, aimed right in front of Crystal Rivers there in the back row, and she could not handle the ball.
And Macy Reese tends to go across her body to that right back position when she swings at that higher tempo ball out of the middle. So Alabama should be prepared for that and know she's coming that way.
Philly to serve, since it's straight out on the service error. That is the 7th service error for the Auburn Tigers here tonight. 8 so far for the Crimson Tide, but Auburn does have 7 service aces. Natalie Murison with a serve for the Tide. Pushed by McElroy. Crystal Rivers goes high off hands. When Jones just past the Brittany Thomas block and gets it to go.
And again, Gwen Jones only had one blocker in front of her because you've got the good attackers all across the net there for Auburn. The ball was somewhat along the net, and she's able to come up with a big kill. And Gwen Jones is going to get kills when she's got one blocker probably 90% of the time.
The freshman is leading the way for the Tigers with 9 kills so far, as that is served out by Kelly Stewart. Tack out another service error. That is 8 for the Tigers.
And right now, Auburn is just letting Alabama hang around with a few unforced errors to not make Alabama pass the ball to get out of it.
Philly, the tip by Gwen Jones, picked up by Murison. Alabama in transition, just sends it over. Macy Reese, and that's going to go down. Alabama still trying to make a play on the ball. They thought that Quincy Gary got underneath it.
And that time Macy Reese went more to her right. She had been going to her left, but it looked like Leah Lawrence actually adjusted her block that way. Macy Reese recognized that and got a good kill to her right that time.
22-16, make it 23-16. Another ace for the Auburn Tigers. Jessie Earl, that is her 40th ace of the season. That breaks her own Auburn record of 39 aces from last season. She's still got 4 games remaining after this one.
And she has just been so strong from the service line, defensively passing, a great all-around player in her position for Auburn.
We'll have the top 3 teams in the college football playoff rankings, all 9-0 on our air Saturday. And we start with Mississippi State taking on the #1 Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa, noon Eastern on ESPN. Then at 3:30 on ABC, the Pitt Panthers are in Death Valley to battle the second-ranked Clemson Tigers. And to cap off the day, it's #3 Michigan and Iowa at 8 on ABC. All 3 of those games on ESPN, also streaming live on the ESPN app. And I know those in SEC country very much looking forward to seeing the Bulldogs and the Tide get after it after Mississippi State pulled out the upset last week of Texas A&M. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty in the volleyball season and the football season as well. And in the nitty-gritty of this match in general, as Auburn is set to take 2 sets from the Tide.
And we talked about how Auburn has a lot of matches on their schedule coming up that if they could win out, that they will be in the conversation with the selection committee. Because, again, if they can get their RPI in the 50 or higher range, I think that with some key wins over those teams, that they're very much in the conversation.
They've got Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas A&M remaining on their schedule. That's 3 of the top 4 teams in the SEC. Some pretty high-quality RPI teams remaining. Again, though, sitting at 111, Auburn is in the RPI. It's a tough mountain to climb, but as Coach Nold said, I think that if they look at what we have done lately, and if we are able to get those wins, we should be in consideration. That's going to be a service error. Another one for the Tigers in this set.
Auburn is very much a team that's high risk, high reward. They serve tough. They know that that's a part of their game, what they want to do, and they're going to risk more errors, and we're seeing more errors from Auburn than Alabama.
Philly pushes it over to Barksdale, and that set wasn't very high at all, but Barksdale looking very much like an upperclassman getting it done.
And Gwen Jones is the attacker on the right side, so Barksdale's going to have splits on those quick attacks as well because the block can't load up in front on Barksdale.
Senior transfer from Cincinnati. Getting up high, Crystal Rivers, dug up by Stewart. Philly over on 2, and the ball kept alive. Good hustle by the Tide. Brittany Thomas making a play on that ball from the ground, and the hustle continues on the other side. In the middle, Leah Lawrence, yes! Wow!
What an outstanding rally, just crazy. that time. The hustle plays happening on both sides of the net. Auburn that time celebrating like they felt like that dig had landed in the court, but right away the line judge, the up official, called that ball out. But you almost hate for, after a great rally like that, for anybody to lose the point.
It was full extension, bodies all over the court. That is some big-time hustle. Now, these teams may not be going to the postseason, guys, but they still got 4 games remaining. They're going to play everyone till the final kill, essentially. And with this match in particular, a rivalry match, it's all out the window. Everything in the kitchen sink goes. So Ed Allen is talking to our down official, Sharon Pierce. He won the point. And right away, his team with a service error, and he is still talking to Sharon Pierce. And the Auburn Tigers walk away even after that rally with the set. Rivalry matchup all the way here in Tuscaloosa. Ed Allen is still talking to Sharon Pierce. Good hustle on both sides, but right now it is the visiting Auburn Tigers up 2-1.
It is the powerhouses, the studs that are here in the final. They have turned their states a little volleyball crazy.
Ride the wave of red in here, this ocean of red.
Kept alive! The Huskers winning at home for their 4th national championship.
Selection show Sunday, November 27th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Volleyball fan. Well, set 3 ended the way of the Auburn Tigers here today on a 14-7 run. Ed Allen not happy with our officials tonight.
And a number of times the Alabama bench has been wanting some ball handling errors called, so whether a double contact or a lift called, and they keep getting warnings from the up official, Ron Stahl. He does not like the bench basically yelling at him saying, we think you need to be calling that, and he continues to give warnings, and Ed Allen just not happy that he's getting so mad when they're just trying to say, hey, I think that should be called.
Sure. Again, it's a rivalry matchup. These are 2 teams that feel like they have to win out the remaining stretch of games on their regular season slate to potentially get into the conversation for the postseason as Barksdale goes long, and the point will go to Alabama in this 4th set. Auburn leads it 2-1. And then you throw into the mix that, oh yeah, it's an in-state rivalry matchup. Things are going to get a little heated.
And it absolutely has been heated the entire time.
Philly over on 2, picked up by Murison. Rivers off the block, and she didn't have a heavy-handed swing that time. Just kind of off the block, off some hands, and down it goes.
And that's what a smart right side will do in an out-of-system situation. If she can't get a good full swing, you're going to go off speed, and she gets the good kill.
So first couple of points goes to Alabama. Trying to get back into this match, and McElroy locked and loaded out on the outside.
And when there's a single block, the attacker is going to tend to try to go inside the block. So Crystal Rivers tried to adjust in, but all McElroy did was go a little bit sharper for that inside the block kill.
And now she will go back to serve. Very good rotation for Auburn. Crystal Rivers, heavy-handed. Crystal Rivers with a big kill.
And Crystal Rivers has struggled at times when she swings on the outside, but here tonight, she has taken some big rips and hit the ball down in front of the defenders. And Jessie Earl is one of the top defenders in the country and not able to come up with that ball.
Rivers with 19 kills, hitting .364 for the match. Dig there by Thomas. Murison to set. Rivers just sends it over. Philly swings it out to Crable. First touch there by Murison. Another free ball for the Tigers. Crable tries to go cross court again. Tomlak with a set. Rivers gets it over. Crable again, and this time Crable right into the Leah Lawrence block.
And I'm kind of surprised that Rick Knoll's not challenging this. Crystal Rivers was in the net on the first swing from the Auburn outside, and it didn't seem close to me, and he was wanting it. He was arguing for it. He's got the challenge to challenge that. So, I mean, I know it was very early in that rally, and maybe he's just not sure, but she was absolutely in the net.
Well, he might be sure. He's questioning Sharon Pierce right now, and the whistle blows. He's laughing. No green card, so onward we go. Back set. Barksdale on the slide, dug up by Thomas. Rivers, back row. Sent over by Crable. Tom Lack, quick to the middle, and Leah Lawrence, dug up by Earl. Crable and Lawrence again, the block at the net.
And the ball was set a little bit inside, so the Alabama block did a better job of getting lined up inside on Crable. And Crable just not in a very good position. That was an easy ball. She probably should have been able to handle that a little better.
That's an ace for Brittany Thomas. Alabama, just their second ace of the night. And you mentioned earlier in that third set, a little bit of a tough time stringing points together. They're doing so right now. And a timeout call by Auburn and Rick Knoll because of it. The Tide rolling so far in this second set, trying to get back into it here in Tuscaloosa, up 6-1. Always a wealth of knowledge on ESPNW.com. You can log on right now and find out the ESPNW Player of the Week. Taylor Leith, outside redshirt sophomore from North Carolina. See where they fit in the rankings. Also highlights, recaps, rankings, and more. And speaking of rankings, and the big reveal from the Division I Women's Volleyball Committee, that was released tonight. North Carolina was a part of that mix.
And not much of a surprise there. But other than that, it's pretty much in line with the RPI and the coaches poll, the top 25 poll.
And Coach Knoll is having words again with Sharon Pierce. She's been busy tonight. And the whistle finally. Brittany Thomas in the midst of a scoring run, and Barksdale takes her off the service line.
And Barksdale has had some success when she's running that slide. And this time it was a little bit inside, so I wonder if initially she was going to run that quicker attack, but the pass was off the net, so nice adjustment between the two of them if that's the case.
I have seen her make a lot of nice adjustments here today. She is definitely a very good player. Obviously has gotten Auburn to this point as one of the higher trending teams, if you will, in the SEC through the month of October. And now they like to keep the winning going, obviously, and take the series sweep of the season against the Crimson Tide.
And again, with just the injuries that they have battled, and you see a lot of players stepping up, just a lot of credit to these players for handling that adversity.
Crystal Rivers goes high, off hands. Over on two goes Philly. Mearson had the set there. Rivers bounces right back to her on a payday, not able to terminate. Crable, yes.
And Alabama has absolutely been prepared for the attack of Alexa Philly over on two. Stays in the rally, but it's the kill by Crable to that off blocker. That's a hard ball to dig up.
Rivers, heavy-handed, sends it home.
Crystal Rivers that time with a little bit of a different look on her swing, and again she hits the ball with a lot of pace and at a downward angle, so it can be tough to defend. So when they're moving her along the net, that's definitely tough.
Take Barksdale off the line. She scored 7 points back there today. Macy Reese picks up the kill for Auburn, gives them the point. Side out for the Tigers.
And Alabama trying to find ways to slow her down. That time you had three blockers in the area trying to put up hands to slow Macy Reese down, because she's getting a lot of kills when she's hitting the ball.
Philly back to serve, 3 kills, 36 assists, 7 digs, 2 blocks for the setter. First touch there by Jessie Earl, nicely done. And heavy loaded, Crable on the outside. That's back-to-back kills for her.
And a couple of kills cross court for Crable, so see if Alabama makes an adjustment. That time Crystal Rivers all the way on the pin, not allowing her to swing line, but she's gotten a few kills cross court, so they probably should make an adjustment now.
Tomac on the move on a payday. with a soft touch. They're going to call Alabama into the net, point to the Tigers.
And I think that was a center line violation as she pointed to the center line, and I didn't see it, but right away she blew the whistle, pointed to the center line, which is the call, the hand signal that she would make. And I'm not even sure which player she called under the net.
It's a 6-1 run for the Tigers as that is served out. Crystal Rivers back at the line, and she's been riding that fine line of being a little too aggressive back at the service line with a couple of service errors here tonight. See what she does here. 20 kills for her thus far. That was a shot straight to Crable. Off the pin goes Reese. Give the point to the Crimson Tide.
And this is that rotation for Auburn where Macy Reese swings on the outside. Gwen Jones runs the quicker attack behind, and Crable comes in the middle for a 2-ball. So I anticipate, well, Crystal Rivers misses her serve, then Auburn doesn't have to make anything happen on their side.
Seen that a couple of times here today, but then again, she's so effective everywhere else across the court. 3 digs, 4 blocks, 20 kills, 3 attack errors. She's been very efficient tonight. Tom Lack tight to the net.
And blocking the set called that time, and absolutely, because if the ball is in the plane of the net, then the blocker has a right to it. So if any part of the ball crosses the plane, but she blocked that ball after she set it, so that was an easy call for the up official.
Hands way over there. Quincy Gary back to serve now. 2-point edge for Alabama. Trying to get back into this one. Down 2-1. Tom Lack, high ball, Rivers splits the block.
And in that situation, you just have to have a closed block. Brenna McElroy probably could scoot in a little bit more. And again, when Crystal Rivers can hit a ball like that out of system, you know, it just brings a lot more to your side of the court.
McElroy dug up by Quincy Gary. Tom Lack on the move. That was an awkward hit ball by Brittany Thomas, but she was able to get the kill out of the back row. That was impressive.
And Brittany Thomas has struggled offensively tonight, so being able to just make some things happen when Alabama absolutely has to win this 4th set, we'll see if that'll give her a little bit of confidence.
Short serve straight at Kelly Stewart. Block is there for the Tide. Tom Lack, again another high ball to Rivers, and over the net it goes. Point for Alabama, and thanks for the heads up there, Jenny, so the ball doesn't come crashing and concuss us over here on the broadcast booth.
And Crystal Rivers getting another out-of-system kill there. It's something that makes her so special.
That is served out. So a couple of service errors earlier by Crystal Rivers, now by Quincy Gary, giving a freebie to the Tigers. Alabama needs to win this set to force it to a set 5. It's the Tigers up 2-1. Again, they won the first matchup 3-1 in early October. Billy taken under the play, had the first touch there and the miss hit. So Auburn out of system and not a lot they could do with it there.
Definitely just a miscue that you don't typically see from Brenna McElroy. She tries to tip it and just doesn't even clear the net.
Oh, pretty good on that second touch in the set. If Billy gets it first, and tooling the block, Auburn with the point as Gwen Jones rotates out, and rotating in. Back to service, Tate Pimber. Gwen Jones has had an outstanding match, one of our key players to start this one with 9 kills. Very short serve. Leah Lawrence denied. Brittany Thomas, though. Ball saved on the other side by Crystal Rivers with a huge save. Barksdale on the slide ends the rally.
And after an unbelievable up by Crystal Rivers, she may be one of the only players in the SEC that can even cover this kind of ground and keep that ball in play. And then a blocking miscue leads to the Auburn point, which is unfortunate.
Rivers out of the back row. Set wasn't there, and the first thing she did after that was go to her freshman setter and say, hey, that's okay, don't worry about it. They're up by 2.
And you love the leadership from your senior.
After tonight's NBA battle in the Lone Star State, catch SportsCenter at night with Scott Van Pelt. He'll have all the NBA, NHL, and college football highlights, NFL news, plus everything else from a busy night in sports. SportsCenter at night after the NBA on ESPN. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. So taking you through some stats here. Alabama hitting 250 right now for the current set to Auburn's 136. And the ball, a little bit more of the sets going to Crystal Rivers here in set 4.
And understandably, because she's been so effective getting kills for Alabama. If you look overall at the stat sheets, they've been pretty close in most of the statistical categories, with just a few things here and there toward one team or the other. So blocks are pretty similar, digs are pretty similar, kills are pretty similar, you know, a few more errors overall for Auburn. So really it's just come down to the serve, but you love seeing the hustle. We talked about the rivalry match, Crystal Rivers just laying her body out on the line, and it's not just that she makes the quick athletic move, it's the fact that that has to happen so fast after the ball goes off the block that a lot of times you don't even see a right back defender even attempt to play a ball over at the scores table like that.
And you get accolades from coaches around the league that have to game plan for Crystal Rivers. Mary Weiss from Florida said, you know, I've got Alex Holston on the right side for me. She's got a high motor, but I don't think I know of anybody who has a higher motor than Crystal Rivers. That is high praise from one of the top coaches in the league. Brittany Thomas tried to hammer one home. Tomlak, Ida Rivers. She was dug up. In the middle, Barksdale. And Barksdale got some fingertips on that one.
And the block for Alabama trying to adjust over to where the pass was because all of the attackers were that way, but a little bit late. So a touch off the block and a point for Auburn.
Very short serve. Quincy Gary there picking it up. Over the block goes Brittany Thomas. Off fingertips again is Brenna McElroy.
And Brenna McElroy knows she has the smaller blocker in front of her in Alexa Tomlak, and taking advantage of the size, the height advantage that she has, and swinging off of her high hands.
Another run for the Tigers. It's a 6-1 run for Auburn. Leah Lawrence, yes.
And Leah Lawrence only had one blocker, so if Alabama can continue to try to feed the middle, she'll have a lot of these one-on-ones, and not just one blocker. The one blocker wasn't even in front of her. So Leah Lawrence had said, my bad, and probably because she didn't pound that ball straight down.
Leah Lawrence, 7 kills. No attack errors here tonight, and one-on-one there against Crystal Rivers. Brenna McElroy winning that battle.
And Brenna McElroy, yeah, she wasn't afraid to go after the smaller blocker of Tomlak, that time going right at Crystal Rivers and getting a kill off the block.
Tied up at 15 apiece. It's been that kind of match thus far. Tomlak, plenty of time. Grable sends it over. Dug up by Gary. Crystal Rivers off the block and down. That's called using the block.
And I talked about how Crystal Rivers was so impressive in playing a ball off that defensive hustle play she made. Here's a ball off the block, and 3 Auburn defenders are right there, and none of them even really get a good clean touch on it. It's you know, a ball they probably should be able to play up.
1-point edge for the tie. That was very, very tight to the net on the set. And, you know, we've seen Barksdale do a lot of good things with not so great sets here tonight, but not that time.
And again, that just comes, she should know with experience, she's a senior, that you can't just go right low into a solid double block.
Brittany Thomas has been stellar back at the line with 10 points off of her serve, make that 11.
And Leah Lawrence with a good adjustment that time. She was fronting the middle, and so Barksdale tried to cut it around her, but Lawrence reached over for that block. And you can see it here in this replay where Leah Lawrence, she was in front of her, and then she just reaches to her right. Barksdale had seen that the blocker wasn't right in front of her, so she was trying to cut it around her, but Leah Lawrence closed that space.
So once again, back and forth we go. It's a 3-point lead for Alabama here in this 4th set. They're down 2-1 to the Tigers, trying to send this to a 5th and decisive set. A The college basketball season tips off Friday, Veterans Day, and we honor those who served and salute the troops with the 5th annual Armed Forces Classic from Honolulu. It's number 10, Arizona, and number 12, Michigan State at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then at 11th ranked Indiana, and number 3, Kansas get after it. Both games are on ESPN, also streaming live on the ESPN app. So a couple of runs for these two teams here in set number 4, both 6-1 runs each for the two teams, and it could go really either way.
And Alabama trying to force a 5th set. They don't want to lose this rivalry match. They want to still have a chance at postseason play, and they absolutely would have to win the remainder of their matches. So they know they've got to win this if they're going to have a shot at that. So definitely trying to close the gap in this match and tie it up at 2 sets apiece.
And Auburn, we have talked so much about some of the balanced offense we saw from Alabama early on, but Auburn, very balanced. You saw the numbers there. McElroy and Jones in double-digit kills. Barksdale with 9, Crable with 9, Reese with 7. So a lot of weapons being utilized here for the Tigers tonight. Good serve by Brittany Thomas. Crable, though, cross-court kill, gets it to go.
And when Crable hasn't been hitting it off of the block, she's gotten more of her kills to the cross-court sideline. So, again, one of those adjustments that you'd like to see Alabama make, just because they know that's where she's been tending to go here late in this match.
So Barksdale rotates out. Crystal Rivers high over the block. Out of the middle, McElroy. Tomlak with the first touch takes her out of the play. Crystal Rivers saw a big opening in that block and took advantage.
And she hit high in the seam of the blocker's hands. And again, coaches are always telling their hitters to swing high. And you can't really tell from that angle, but there was just enough of a seam in the block in that high area. And of course, Crystal Rivers can find that easily.
Billy Reese off McSparrett. Crable dug up by Lawrence. It was a joust at the net. Tomlak to McSparrett. Philly over on 2. Tomlak was waiting for it. Here comes Rivers. Yes. Wow. Goes line this time.
And again, you have to credit Alabama's preparation for the setter taking the second ball over that then leads to that ball right there, because Tomlak played the first ball that Alexa Philly sent over, and then that out-of-system ball to Crystal Rivers scores the point.
Good serve by Leah Lawrence. A miscommunication on who was going to get the first touch for the Tide. Rivers again tries to get it past the block. Jessie Earl going full extension, though we will not have a continuation of that rally this time.
You continue to see the hustle on both sides. This time Jessie Earl trying to chase this ball down, and she gets there but just didn't get quite a clean enough play on it for anybody else to play it up.
25 kills for Rivers, 6 points off the service of Lawrence tonight. Looking very good in this 4th set. Tomlak gets the set. Thomas not able to terminate on a payday, winning that joust at the net.
And Brittany Thomas took a pretty big rip in that rally to force the overdig, and Ani Payday is there and puts it right in the right spot to score a critical point for Alabama.
So now it's the Tide stringing a run of points together here, trying to send it to a 5th set, and finally Leah Lawrence gets off the service line, courtesy of Macy Reese.
And Macy Reese continuing to find success with that little bit of a higher tempo middle attack. And you know that teams are prepared for it, but they just have a hard time handling it.
Philly to serve. Tomlak having to chase it down on a payday, dug up by Philly. She is out of the play. Jones, no. Push it out on a payday off the block. Philly, Reese. That was a crafty move by the junior from Hendersonville, Tennessee.
And Crystal Rivers, I think, probably regretting that she didn't try to play that ball. I don't know if she thought maybe it was going out or she thought that the defender was right behind her, but really she's the off blocker, probably needs to be the one to play that ball.
Philly targeting Brittany Thomas, but that's okay because the set was there. The ball control was good, and McSparran puts it away.
And that's one thing Brittany Thomas does not get enough credit for. She handles such a big load in the passing game for Alabama and really does a great job at that.
Good serve by Rivers. Reese tries to hammer it home. Rivers through the block. Dig is there by McElroy. Conrad on a payday who pushes it. Back set, Gwen Jones on the slide play. Gets it down.
And that ball wasn't perfectly along the net, but Gwen Jones still just has one blocker in front of her because Alexa Philly could have set either pin. And when Gwen Jones has had a single block, she's been very successful.
There's the ball control. Set to Rivers, dug up by Jessie Earl. McElroy denied. Sparran said, you know what? I'm a little bit taller than my setter, but she gets all the credit on that one.
And Tomlak listed at 5'9". She really looks a little smaller than that to me in person, but comes up with a big block to get set point for Alabama.
Set point number 1 for the Tide. Macy Reese. And that's going to be the 4 contacts for Alabama. Good effort. It will be set point number 2 for Alabama.
And no surprise that we're continuing to see the all-out hustle. And, you know, you would think, well, I mean, don't teams play like that all the time? But there seems to be a little bit of extra in every play here tonight.
Just a little bit of an extra edge, a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. And that typically happens in rivalry matches all across the country. When it comes to Alabama and Auburn, well, you're for one or the other in this state. And that is going to do it in this 4th set on the service error by Jessie Earl, and we will go to a 5th and decisive set in this rivalry matchup between the Tide and the Tigers.
Roll Tide, roll!
War Eagle! There's no rivalry that can match the excellence of what this matchup has been.
Two sides that have a long history of hate.
Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
The most intense, dramatic, passionate, compelling rivalry in all of sports.
War Eagle, Roll Tide, Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Melissa Lee alongside Jenny Hazelwood. It has been a fun match here this evening. Alabama climbing back into this one, taking that 4th set 25-20, putting together a string of points back at the service line, courtesy of Leah Lawrence. Crystal Rivers, their ace, with 26 kills. Over on the other side for the Tigers, McElroy and Jones leading the way. Double-digit kills sitting at 11 apiece. And it is going to come down to the final point. First to 15 walks away with a victory.
And I think that you can see here the key players, Brenna McElroy, Crystal Rivers, they're going to get their attempts, but a 15-point set goes by really, really fast. So these two teams are really going to have to focus on minimizing unforced errors. Don't give the other team easy points, because I think that'll be the separator in this one. So Auburn serves aggressive, can't afford to miss serves.
This season, Auburn 6-2 in 5-set matches. Alabama even at 4-4. And we are underway in this 5th set. Jessie Earl to serve. Tomlak goes to her favorite target, Crystal Rivers. Make that kill number 27 for the redshirt senior.
And what makes Crystal Rivers so special, she has a solid block in front of her and can still hit it high enough to get the weaker part of the block. The high hands is the weaker part of the block, and get that kill.
Brittany Thomas has scored 11 points off of her serve tonight. Hoping for more. Gwen Jones says, nope, taking you off.
And another great right side. I mean, this has still been the battle of the right sides that we thought we would see. And Gwen Jones just taking a big rip. Alabama was a little more ready for it, but she finds just a small split in the block for the kill.
12 kills for her. She rotates out. Soft touch over the block goes Rivers. Getting up high, McElroy. Try to go down the line, and it is going to be wide. And we have her arguing the call, trying to tell Coach Knoll, nah, I think I got some fingertips on that one.
Well, they're wanting a touch. Some of the players thought it was in. And on the sideline view, yeah, it was in on the sideline. But the line judge that calls that in line said it was out long, and I agree.
McElroy into the double block. McSparron and Rivers on that side.
And Alexa Philly's in the front row. She only has 2 attacking options. So a solid double block up on Brenna McElroy, feeling like she's going to be who they try to trust to carry them through in this 5th set.
15 total team blocks for the Crimson Tide. That is a season high. Again, we mentioned moving from the swing blocking to static blocking the last couple of matches, and it has worked very well for Alabama. On a payday, high over that block. Philly over on 2, found some wide open real estate in the middle on the other side.
And Alabama has been ready for that, but that time Alexa Philly puts it down in front of the defender. So even though they know she's been going over on 2, there's just nothing that Tom Lack can do to get that ball up.
Philly with 4 kills here today. That is served out. It's a freebie to the Tide.
And again, just can't give easy points here. So Auburn, you know, their game is to serve tough, but in 15 points, you can't afford to give 3-4 points on a missed serve.
And on the other side, Crystal Rivers gives them one right back. 12 service errors for Auburn and 12 for Alabama. That stat negated for the 2 teams. So what's it going to come down to?
Well, whoever can clean it up here in this set. And I guess if they both keep making errors, then it'll be just who at the end can get that 2-point lead.
First to 15, got to win by 2. McSparron puts it easily between the Auburn block.
When Tom Lack is connecting with her middles, both middles are so effective, again, because they run it so fast. So the blockers are a little bit late and not getting their hands fully over the net when she makes contact and she gets the big kill.
Short serve, Quincy Gary. Give and go back to Macy Reese. And that'll get the kill to her and the point to Auburn. By the way, Bowling Green, we should say, versus Akron, that football game over on ESPN News.
And a good job that time going off of the block of Brittany Thomas. She had actually had to jump with the front row setter Alexa Philly, so she was late on that block. So good swing there by Macy Reese.
1-point edge for Alabama. Big swing out of the back row goes Crystal Rivers. On the slide play, Gwen Jones denied. Auburn not able to hang on to it. It was a battle at the net, won by Alabama.
And you can just feel the energy again like we have all night. And good cover that time on the block, but sent it over. And the Alabama front row players putting it a little bit deeper where Auburn couldn't pick it up.
Good serve by Murison. Auburn out of system there. Tom Lack, quick to Leah Lawrence. And Auburn just trying to get their feet back from underneath them off that serve.
And Auburn really struggling in the passing game, so they're not really able to run as much of an offense. So when they're giving easy balls back to Alabama, they're going to score points, especially from their middles.
So don't forget Bowling Green Akron if you're looking for that football game over on ESPN News. But stick around here. It's going to be a great finish in T-Town. Top 3 teams in the college football playoff rankings, all 9-0 on our air Saturday. And we start with Mississippi State taking on #1 Alabama in Tuscaloosa at noon Eastern on ESPN. Then at 3:30 on ABC, the Pitt Panthers are in Death Valley to battle the second-ranked Clemson Tigers. And to cap off the day, it's #3 Michigan and Iowa at 8 on ABC. All 3 of those games also on the ESPN app. 5th set. Service ace for the Crimson Tide. Right
for Auburn has been the story, and you can see this attack percentage, 571 for Alabama. Auburn's passing is struggling, so they've sent over a lot of easy balls, and Alabama has absolutely taken advantage of those easy free balls that they're getting from Auburn.
And what do you get when you have a rivalry matchup? Sometimes it comes down to who's got the audience behind him, and today it is the Crimson Tide. Auburn won the first matchup back in early October 3-1, and they're going to call Alabama into the net. The point would have gone to Auburn nonetheless.
And you like the aggressive swing there by Jones when they had a tough time getting out of that rotation. Finally got a good pass, and she took a big rip at that ball. Like you said, she would have had a kill even if they weren't in the net.
Tom Lack, back row, Crystal Rivers. Straight at Philly, takes her out of that play. And the joust at the net. Tom Lack tried to take it over, but just did not have the size.
And a tighter pass there for Tom Lack to try to go over on 2, and a solid block in front of her. McElroy was ready and puts the ball back down.
Kelly Stewart with that service. Back set on the slide, Leah Lawrence. Wynn Jones on the right side. Crystal Rivers, everybody knows it's coming that way. And that's an attack error.
Yeah, Crystal Rivers swung a little bit low on that ball, and Macy Reese did a great job of staying at the net to block, because you know Crystal Rivers is going to swing hard. You have to defend her like a front row attacker, even out of system.
So now a 3-0 run for the Tigers. It's been a run of points for these two teams throughout this match and gaining momentum whenever they can. And that was Ed Allen calling the timeout this time.
And it's been interesting because side-out percentage-wise, Alabama had been siding out at 100% before Auburn sided out this time and then has gone on a run of points. So, you know, Alabama was very successful, but now having some struggles.
And Auburn wanting to win, not just because it's a rivalry matchup, but to try to get into the postseason. They've got some quality teams remaining in Missouri, Florida, and Texas A&M. All three of those actually quality RPI teams. They are sitting at 111 in the current RPI. It's a tough mountain to climb, but they have been playing very well since the month of October.
And if they did win out, so you have those 3 wins over teams that will be in the NCAA tournament, that's obviously important if they had that. But then, you know, you might get enough of an RPI bump if your own win percentage is high enough and your opponent's win percentage clearly is high with those teams coming up on the schedule.
So Auburn won the first matchup between the two teams back in early October on the 9th. A 3-1 victory for the Tigers. Again, they finished 6-2 for the month of October. Alabama snapped a 4-match losing streak Sunday with a victory over Arkansas and would like to make it 2 in a row here on their home court. Both teams back on the floor. Here we go to the finish. Set 5 in T-Town, and that is a service error by Kelly Stewart.
And credit that point to Ed Allen, who called the timeout and forced probably a little bit of icing the server, if you will, and she misses a critical serve.
Again, the first to 15. You have to win by 2. Walks away victorious tonight. Good up by Murison. Brittany Thomas hits it into that block and tools it and gets the kill.
And a really nice call there by the line judge. That ball went off of the block, but easily out of bounds. What a great up by Natalie Murison, and Brittany Thomas comes up with a clutch kill.
8 points off the service of Tom Lack here today. Push it out, McElroy. Lawrence was there, and Crystal Rivers was there, but it's off their hands and out of bounds, so point Auburn.
And one of the things that I'm seeing from Crystal Rivers, a few times she's gotten tooled off of her hands out of bounds. She's got to turn that hand in so that when it hits her hand, it goes inbounds.
Jessie Earl back to serve. The best servers on the team for Auburn. Crystal Rivers dug up by Earl on the other side. Jones and Brittany Thomas coming up clutch again.
And I'm not even sure that one cleared the tape. So even though the blocker was right there in front of her, I don't even know that Gwen Jones cleared the tape. Nope. So attack error, an unforced error there by Gwen Jones, who's been so strong and steady for Auburn this season.
That's a service ace for Brittany Thomas. Working at the net, back at the service line. 4th service ace today for the Tide. Timeout, Rick Knoll.
And Brittany Thomas, we talk about how she probably doesn't get the credit for a lot of the other things that she does for this team. Handles a heavy load in the passing, playing great defense, but she's really been a top server here for Alabama tonight and helps give Alabama the edge in this 5th set.
Brittany Thomas, when she is back there, has scored 12 points off of her serve here today. By far the best rotation for the Crimson Tide. You see her numbers there, the 7 kills and a couple of aces. But you talk about what she does passing, and that's almost not underlooked, right? It's almost like defense, right? When you're playing football or basketball, everybody loves the offense, but it's the defense and the passing that is getting it done for Brittany Thomas and the Crimson Tide. She's got 14 digs here today. So we saw what was remaining on the schedule for the Auburn Tigers. Here's what Alabama has left. Really one quality RPI opponent remaining in the Florida Gators, but not as tough of a road to climb, or a mountain to climb, if you will, as Auburn. They are sitting, Alabama is, at 68 in the RPI.
And again, how that formula works is your own win percentage. So if Alabama can win out, that obviously helps their win percentage. And then your opponent's win percentage. You know, a few of those teams, Ole Miss, South Carolina, they won a lot in non-conference play. So they don't take a big, heavy hit in the opponent win percentage. So a chance for them to still increase their RPI a little bit. There is a third component, the opponent's win percentage, that factors in there as well. But Alabama's still trying to fight for some postseason play.
Alabama trying to close the door. Up 12-8 in set 5. McElroy was denied on the Alabama block. Tom Lack with the first touch. Rivers through the block. Crystal Rivers, 28th kill of the match.
And Crystal Rivers didn't have a lot of kills in her last match out against Arkansas, and definitely has come here tonight to play. And again, she's just taking some bigger swings, hitting a little bit harder, some smarter shots. Arkansas was blocking her a lot, and she has 28 kills in this match.
Her last battle with the Tide jersey on against the Tigers as a redshirt senior. Tom Lack goes back to her favorite target. Philly with the dig. Back over the net. Lawrence took advantage. Auburn out of system.
And that ball was under set, so Leah Lawrence did a great job of handling the lower set. Goes with the off speed and gets a kill and gives a match point.
Match point, Alabama. Best rotation for the Tide. Thomas at the line. McElroy dug up by Murison. Tom Lack, the miss hit by Leah Lawrence. McElroy. Going to be a heavy hit ball by Brittany Thomas. And down it goes Leah Lawrence in the middle, and the Tide splits the season series.
And some back and forth in that rally, and a little bit of miscommunication on the Alabama side, but they're able to get the over dig, and Leah Lawrence handles it nicely.
Lawrence with the 10 kills, the decisive kill in this one. The last match for Crystal Rivers in a Tide jersey against the Tigers. She's got 28 kills, hit .333 for the match. For Jenny Hazelwood and our entire crew, Melissa Lee saying so long. Once again, Auburn goes down to the Tide in 5. Coming up next, Bowling Green versus Akron.